Welcome everybody, it's Kentucky Ranger. There's my mama. Say howdy, mama.
Howdy.
And my sister.
Hello.
Junebug and Dolly. Of course they can't see, they can bark.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good dogs. So we was just getting ready to move to Utah, but then decided we're going to talk a little bit more. We might get into the Utah thing. Oh, you need to start your timer.
Keep talking, I'll get it going.
Yeah, you get it. Anyhow, talking about how the stuff you used to do when you worked.
Yeah.
How you get paid.
It dawned on me, back in those days, you got paid cash.
Right.
And if you got paid by a check, you took it to the grocery store and they would cash it for you. Free.
Well, yeah, for free. But another, because not too often many people had bank accounts back then.
You didn't. I don't even remember when me and your dad had our first bank account. I don't, unless it was when we went to Akron, because he was in the military, and he always went somewhere on the base, and they paid him. I think they paid him cash.
I think they did, but they had the payroll officer, and everybody lined up Friday after work.
Right.
And they paid you, like if you got $20 and 25 cents, you got a $20 bill and a quarter.
Right.
And a little receipt.
And when you would, when you rented a place, apartment or something, you paid in cash, and they'd give you a receipt.
They give you a receipt.
I just wanted to throw that in there because
there was no online banking.
Oh no,
the way banks worked back in the day is like, say you had a bank account and you got paid, you walk into the bank, hand them your money, and tell them who you are. Of course, back little towns, they pretty much knew who you were. You had to have your bank account information.
Definitely.
They manually entered it into their books.
The Campbells had a checking account because I remember she had checks.
Right.
Because she taught me how to write checks.
But
how to fill out checks.
If you wanted to know what your balance was at the bank, you had to go to the bank, and they had to physically grab a big old register book and look your name up with your account.
Well, they would send it to you too in the mail.
Monthly, you get a statement. You get a bank statement.
That's how you would balance your checking account. You'd go through it and make sure that.
But the thing about it is, if you wanted to know how much you had in your account at any given time, you had to go to the bank.
Yeah.
And they had to physically take a register book.
Oh yeah.
And look up your name with your account and look in there and see what was last written.
Right. There was no such thing as direct deposit.
Or computers.
No. So I just wanted to throw that in there before we went any further.
The very first computers, well now, banks were one of the first to utilize, I think UNIVAC was the first one that built a computer that, like banks and utility companies and places like that would use.
Right.
And I'm sure you remember this, and there's a lot of people out there, and I've got to find a picture. You remember when you'd get your utility bill in the mail? It would be a punch card.
Yeah,
and it would say across the front of it, it would say, "Do not fold, bend, or mutilate."
Right.
And it had little holes in it.
Uh-huh.
Because what those cards, it's what it was called a 10-key punch machine. IBM came up with that. And the holes in there told them when you sent your bill in, they ran that card and it told them your account information, how much your bill was, and they would make sure that that was exactly what your check was.
Right.
And credit your account accordingly.
But it was cash.
I know it was electric company. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like the gas company.
You paid them cash. You didn't
even the phone company, I think. Yeah.
they would give you a receipt. That's why you had to have a certain drawer with all your receipts in it.
Well, another thing is credit cards. When you first started working, I don't think they had such a thing as a credit card.
Well, they did, but you had to be rich to have one. Because Mrs. Campbell had to remember Polsky's and O'Neill's in Akron.
Yeah,
She had a credit card for them.
Well, I had no idea. But here's another thing about credit cards. They weren't called credit cards. They were called charge plates.
Right, and they weren't plastic.
And what were they?
Tin.
Yeah, they were made out of metal.
Uh-huh.
And what you all consider MasterCard was originally Master Charge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a metal plate.
Right.
Like aluminum, tin. I don't know what they were made out of.
All I know is
But when you
metal.
went to pay for something with your credit card at a store, you didn't swipe it on a card reader.
Oh,
They physically put it in this gargantuan machine. I'm going to try to take a picture of this.
Oh, you can get one. I'm sure.
You put it in there. They put a slip of paper over it, and they drug this big old roller thing across.
Right.
And clunk, clunk. And what it would do is it would imprint your credit card information onto this receipt.
Yes.
Then you had to sign the receipt, and you got one of the copies, and then they sent the other in to get paid by the credit card company.
Right.
They were still using them when I first worked. I had to learn how to use those.
Oh, when I first started driving a truck, of course, by then they were made out of plastic. They weren't metal anymore. But I had
they had a little
I had a credit card. It was the same thing, and they would zip them. And the problem with the cards were plastic is about every 2 or 3 months I'd have to get a new one because all that swipe, that back and forth, or at the truck stops paying for fuel, it would mash the numbers down. It wouldn't work anymore.
When I worked as a cashier, they had a book of those things sitting there next to that machine.
Yeah.
And there was 3 pieces to it. There was the carbon copy, and then there was 2 papers. The carbon went into the garbage, and the store kept one of the copies, and you handed the other one to the customer.
Yeah, and that's what started one of the original hacking things. Is people would dig in the garbage and they'd get those carbons out.
Right.
And they could get your credit card number off them carbons, and they could use your credit card.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do is they would make a credit card. Anyhow, it just sidetracked me. The
carbon copy thing.
Yeah, they would take, and they could take those numbers, and they could make their own charge card, and they'd take it to a place. People wouldn't realize what was going on, and you'd start getting a bill in the mail. You might have $2 in your credit card that you charged something. Then all of a sudden you get a bill for $100 that you charged something you never did.
Right.
But back then, how you gonna prove it?
Mm-hmm.
It was harder.
Oh, it was horrible.
Oh yeah, I don't think the credit companies honored took that off of your
No, you
bill.
had to pay it.
Yeah. Where now they do.
As technology progressed, the cards they went from metal to plastic. Then they started with the magnetic strips, and then they started with fraud insurance.
Right.
So because there was so much of it going on, well, still there's so much. That's why we have the little chips and all the weird stuff and the. But anyhow. So you got paid cash with a little.
I just thought that would be interesting.
And when you went to look for a
let these
job,
young people know.
See, back in the day, you mentioned a lot of people either couldn't afford or whatever. The newspapers, I'm sure they had want ads back then.
I'm sure they did, but
But the main way that you would look for a job in a town is, you explain it.
Well, if like I was a waitress, so I decided I wanted to work at the Gourmet.
No, you decided you needed a job.
Well, I know.
You just walk downtown looking, and their sign.
Right.
They post signs in the window.
There was Hippie's and all other different restaurants there, but I wanted Gourmet.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know why. It just looked cool.
Well.
But I just walked in and told them I was looking for a job, and I'll never forget the owner, Carl Penman.
Well,
And he sat down and interviewed me and told me to come to work the next day. So,
well.
but
Yeah, there really wasn't much of an interview process or anything.
no,
You didn't fill out
just
an
looked you
application.
over
You just walked up. Hey, I need a job. Okay.
Most people, I don't think, got the newspaper back then.
no, there's
Weren't they only about a nickel?
Yeah, I
or a
think so.
dime
They
or
weren't very
something?
expensive.
my sister worked at the News Exchange in Akron downtown, and
Like I say, a lot of
you could
people, what
buy
they
newspapers
do,
there.
that's what they used to call when you go looking for a job, you just pounding the pavement.
Yeah,
That meant you walked around town looking in the windows for help wanted signs.
I thought about going to work for Goodyear, and I don't know why I didn't go and put my application in there.
Did it intimidate you, or because Mark worked there?
No, I don't remember why I didn't. It wasn't meant for me to.
Apparently not.
Marg gave up a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she has. She had an excellent job there.
Yeah, it's better than $20 a week.
But, well, another thing, you was talking about filing taxes. Now, how would you, because everybody had to pay taxes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the beginning of this country.
Yeah. At the end of the year, Carl, where I worked there, Carl would give me a little card, looked like almost like a postcard, and I filled it out and mailed it.
Well, what would happen if, what if you ended up owing money, or was it just
No.
saying that,
I think I got money back.
or was it certifying that he'd been paying taxes on you, or you
Yeah.
still had to have a Social Security card?
Oh, yes.
Because back then,
Yes.
even back then, the Social Security system was in place.
What
Yeah.
you have to do, right? How much you made that
Yeah,
year or something?
yeah, and he kept records, and he had the records there, so
So the little card had how much you made that year.
right,
And
and
how much
I
taxes you
made
paid.
an hour, and how much was taken out,
Right.
and-
And then you
all
just
that
signed it
stuff.
and mailed it.
yeah,
And an IRS, I'm sure if you owed them money, they'd let you know. But if
Oh,
they
Lord, yes,
owed
but-
you, huh?
but they would let you know.
Oh, I guarantee you they'd let you. But
I
And
can't
if you- I
remember if
guess
I
if
ever
you
got
needed-
money back or
I was gonna
not.
say, if you got money back, I guess they'd send you a check.
Maybe I could become rich over that. I'll start
Lord
claiming
have mercy.
my taxes.
No,
that I-
because I think by law you can only go back, it's either 7 or 10 years. And the
Yeah.
reason I know that, or kind of know that, is there was a guy that I worked with at Lexington Cartage.
I'd have to go back 60 years.
Lord have mercy. No, he was working there. I think he worked there for about a year. But he was complaining about his taxes, and he don't like filling out taxes. And I think, and I was complaining, because it's like, oh, I hate this every year. That's what it was. And he says, well, I don't even bother paying. I said, how do you know you owe? Well, I just don't file. And I said, dude, come on, you've got how this guy was telling me that for like the last 5 or 6 years he hadn't filed taxes. And I said, dude, I'm not paying anything. I says, you pay in every year. The places you work, they automatically pay into that.
Right.
Well, I don't want to owe them more to you. I said, how do you know? They probably owe you. And I walked him through. I said, take your W-2 form, go to the H&R Block and talk to them about it. Well, they went back, I think it was a 4 or 5 year. I can't remember how many years back that he said he hadn't been paying. It cost him a couple $100. But they went back 4 or 5 years, and he got back, my God, it's like $6,000
Oh, Lord.
that they owed him in back taxes,
Mm-hmm.
the tax refunds. Well, he freaked out. I said, dude, you've got to file every year. You don't know if you owe them every year. You don't owe them every year if you're paying into it. You're
Yeah.
owed, because most people, unless you're right on the edge and you know what's happening, you always overpay.
Right.
You never pay at or below to where you end up owing at the end of the year, like I said, unless you got a CPA and you're right on the edge kind of thing, and you're, but anyhow, file your taxes. They're not evil. That's why we have roads and why we have the things that we have.
Of course.
But
one good thing about being old, you don't have to pay taxes.
Right, yeah, Social Security is not taxable.
So that's one
they
good
tried,
thing.
Was it Clinton? One of them tried to start taxing it, and I think everybody just went, no, you ain't gonna do that.
No, that wouldn't be right.
No, it wouldn't be right.
Because
it in itself was a tax.
Yeah.
How do you tax a tax? You can't do it.
Right.
Other than that, transportation, when you were younger, I think we'd already covered that, because you walked everywhere you went, because when you live in a larger city, you don't really need a car.
No, because you catch the bus. It was about 12 cents, I think.
Right. And if you lived in a rural area, you pretty much worked on a farm or something, you really didn't need transportation for that either.
No, because, well, even the buses would run everywhere. If I wanted to go to Akron from Cuyahoga Falls,
well, yeah, if we've got cities connected,
walked up to the main road, and you'd only have to wait for about 15 minutes.
So that's the same thing when we lived in Salt Lake City. The UTA, Utah Transit Authority, you could catch a bus in Salt Lake and you could take it all the way up to Ogden.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could take it all the way south to Provo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how far south they stopped. You're talking hundreds of miles that they covered.
Yeah.
But when you're in a rural area like here in Kentucky, Lexington, they have a bus system.
Yeah.
But
they need one here to take you to Lexington.
I was getting ready to say, here's the thing where the state of Kentucky falls way short is you can't catch a bus in Lexington and take it to Frankfort.
Mm-hmm.
You can't catch a bus in Lexington and take it to Louisville. They don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
For Salt Lake, the Utah Transit Authority, you could, like I said, you could catch a bus in Salt Lake and you could take it 80 miles up north up to Ogden, up north of Ogden, or south down to Provo. What? You laughing?
Do you remember that time when you got on that bus?
Oh my God, yeah, that was our first time we got on a bus.
And I wouldn't let him pull the string for where we were supposed to get off. I'd seen too many of them old movies where you pull the string on a train. And
Yeah,
it made
locks the brakes or something. Yeah.
And I wouldn't
Oh,
let
that
you
was
pull.
ridiculous, because I think you was what, 15,
I don't
14?
remember.
I was
We
like
ended
12.
up miles away from where we were supposed to be.
Yeah, we was going to catch the bus. I think he was 16 or something. No.
I can't
No,
remember.
'cause
No, I was
you said-
18.
no.
I was 18.
No, because you had a car. By then you had a car. But anyway, no, we caught
She
the
had
bus.
a car when she was 16.
That's what I'm saying. So it had to have been before then. But no, me and you was going somewhere. I can't remember.
I don't
think we was
remember.
wanting to go to the mall that day, and Mom didn't want to take us. So we jumped on a bus. Had no idea about bus schedules or anything like that. We just jumped on a bus. What's taking us? We have no idea. You know, when you're a young kid, streets and stuff, we just see stuff going past the windows. And we're both looking at each other like, well, when are we supposed to get off? And we're looking for, that's what it was, because we were wanting to go to the mall. Well, the bus route that we was on, the bus, it didn't go by the mall. It went somewhere else in town.
Oh, it went way out.
And we're
of the way.
sitting there, and Lord have mercy, I think we ended up in Sandy or
You
something.
kept trying to pull the string, and I kept
Yeah, I kept-
smacking your hand.
Well, it wasn't a string, it was a little strip on the side that you push it, and what it did is it rang a little buzzer up at the driver's thing
Yeah,
to let
that
him
you
know
wanted
that the
off.
next opportunity to pull over and stop. She wouldn't let me. She's like, no, don't do that. We'll get in trouble. So we sit there. Oh my God. How much? Over an hour.
Dad had to come and get
In
it.
fact, it finally got to the point, the poor driver, he was at the end of his route. Everybody was gone. It was just me and her and the bus driver. And he turns around and he says, are y'all lost? I can't remember what happened. We said talk to him or something, but yeah, we had to call Dad, and he had to come and get us because he said, "Well, I'm sorry, this is the end of my route." In fact, he said, "This is the end of my shift, and I'm going from here to the shop." But yeah, that was our first bus ride. We got on a bus, I think, what was it all like 2 hours or something. I mean, we sit on that bus.
Should have been about a 20-minute trip.
Lord God knows where we went.
Well, that's like when she got her car. The two of you got
oh, we
lost.
got so lost.
Oh, I'll never forget
Oh,
that.
we get lost.
I
Well,
called
mean, we
Mom
get lost,
crying.
But see,
I'm lost. Where you
we?
at? I don't know.
I have no idea. Well, what's around you? I don't know. There's a 7-Eleven. Well, there's only one 7-Eleven on each street corner, so that narrows it down pretty much to there's a street corner somewhere.
Oh.
But back then, when you're younger, I shouldn't say back then, it's just when you're younger, like when you first start driving a car, you suddenly come to the realization that those 16 years past, that you was riding around, it looked cool in the scenery, but you paid absolutely no attention to where you were at,
No,
where you were
you
going,
don't.
street
None.
names, anything. So it's even funnier when you're older because you look back and you think, I was so scared, but it was so stupid because I was, especially Salt Lake, because Salt
Yeah.
Lake, all the streets are on a grid.
Yeah.
You can't get lost.
No, you can't.
Oh, yes, you can. We did.
Yeah.
Because you remember when I first got my driver's license, I got so lost I had no idea where I was.
I had you and Randy in the car with me one time and ended up down there in this horrible part of town, all these prostitutes and these
Oh, yeah.
pimps
You
and-
crossed over the
Oh, my
Third South
gosh.
Viaduct. You ended up over in, what they call that?
I don't know.
They had a name for that part of the town.
It was scary.
It was, ooh.
The
Well, I'll tell you where it
funniest-
was at. It was where the Utah State Fairgrounds.
Yeah, it's over on the west end of town.
The funniest thing, though, that I remember when you, Cherie, got her driver's license, your dad let you drive us to Lagoon.
Oh my God!
That was horrible.
Me and your
Everything is
dad.
going wonderful, and until we went through that intersection, she's like, "Oh, look at that puppy!" And we was heading to the
No, that
ditch.
was different. That was with me and you and Mom.
Yeah.
No, we were on our way to Lagoon, wasn't we?
Mm-mm.
No.
Because Dad, I think, went ballistics and stop it with the dog. Watch where you're going.
No,
That was Mom.
Oh,
me
okay.
yelling. No, the funny part is, me and your dad took a Valium before we left.
Well, I'll tell you what, the statute of limitations is over, so we can talk about this freely amongst ourselves.
Well, it was
The day that I
prescription.
went to take my driving test, the first place I ever drove, the ink hadn't dried on my driver's license. I had to stop at the very first 7-Eleven so she could get her a 6-pack of beer, and she downed 2 of them before she'd let me pull out and leave. She's like, "Okay, I'm okay. Let's go now."
I said, okay, now you can
I'm
go.
like, "Okay."
Anyway,
So here I am, just got my driver's license. I have no idea where I'm at. My mom's in the passenger seat,
I was in
Done.
the back seat.
back seat, wherever you was at.
Yeah, I was in
you
the
just
back.
tossed back 2 beers. Well, if a cop would have stopped, he'd have thought, "What in the world is going on? Who's this lady in the back seat of this car with 2 empty beer bottles rolling around on the floor?"
But what was the funny about the Valium time we got at Lagoon?
Oh, you and Dad, hey, I remember you just found a bench and sit there.
We
the whole
could
time.
not do nothing. We just
Yeah, you just found a bench and y'all just sort of hung out.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We'll be here. Have
Oh,
fun.
I remember Lagoon. It's really cool. There's a YouTuber, Justin Scard. He visited Lagoon here not too long ago. I'll tell you, that place looks just like it did back in the day.
Wow.
They got some new rides, but a lot of, like the Colossus. You remember the Colossus?
Yeah.
It's still there.
I hated that mouse ride.
The mouse ride, mouse trap, or whatever it was called. Something
Yeah.
mouse.
The wild mouse?
Wild man, yeah, that's what it was. A wild man. It's still there. The old West Town, old Pioneer Village, it's still there. And that's awesome, because I tell you what, that's a really cool place.
You'll have to put up a picture then. Remember the time that we was on the paddle boats and I was following these other people and got out of the buoys and we almost got hit by the big ferry?
Oh, yeah. The only thing that they don't have there anymore that was really cool was, you remember them great big chrome rocket ship looking things that went around and around?
Oh,
and
yes.
and they swing out as it got moving,
Yeah.
spinning, and you could look down and it went out over that pond and everything.
Oh,
My
yeah,
God,
I
that was so
remember.
cool.
I remember
it was
that.
so cool.
I'd forgot about that.
They must have been dangerous, or they wouldn't have.
Well,
Got rid
no,
of
it had probably been there since the 40s or something. It was old.
Mm.
It had been there since the beginning. I don't know when Lagoon, when they first built it, but
I don't either.
yeah,
It
they had
goes
some cool
back
stuff, and a
years
lot
and
of that
years.
stuff's still there. That really blew my mind. The one thing I'm real curious, and I haven't been able to see, is the arcade. Do you remember the arcade? They had all them old, old arcade games.
Mm.
I mean, from like back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, the old
Yeah.
crane machines. Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, I always liked Lagoon.
But now what is there, because he went through it, was Dracula's Castle. Because see, that was right next door to where the arcade is. Or was. I don't know if it's still there. Remember Dracula's Castle, the spook ride?
Yeah.
It's still as dumb as it was back then. But back then, when you're 10 years old, it was spooky.
Well, me and Tammy was on it one time. You know, it wasn't scary, it was dumb.
Yeah, but it was
But we
cool.
were coming to the end of the ride, and a
Yeah.
dude in a scary costume
Jumped
actually
out at you.
jumped out on the track in front of us about to give me a heart attack.
Oh, it
Some
was
of
fun.
the things that you lived through.
Y'all got ahead of yourself. We weren't supposed to be in Utah
well,
yet.
we can. That's the nice thing about it. We can just talk about stuff here and there. It
Yeah.
don't really matter. We can fast track, backtrack.
You know, there were things about Utah I didn't like, but there was a lot of things about it I
it's so
missed.
cool. And I'll tell you another
Yeah.
thing. You can go down State Street if he's hungry. There was every restaurant.
Oh, they had good food
Oh,
there.
awesome.
They had good
But
food.
it didn't matter whatever you were in the mood for. There was a
Oh.
remaurant.
The spaghetti factory.
Oh, Lord.
German
Oh my gosh, that was to
food,
die for.
Yeah,
I
German
miss
food,
Mexican
Greek food.
food,
Oh, yeah. There was a
Italian
restaurant.
food, and
As the old
they
saying,
had-
there's an app for that. Well, on State Street in Salt Lake, there's a restaurant for that.
didn't Kentucky Colonel? Didn't he start
Yeah, what the
his
original
business there in
Colonel
Salt Lake?
Sanders,
Yeah.
is in Salt Lake.
the first franchised restaurant. A lot of people get this confused and they argue.
Yeah.
He first started selling his chicken in Kentucky. I think it's in Corbin, Kentucky,
Uh-huh.
at a gas station that was next door to Motor Lodge or a motel thing.
Yeah.
He didn't own it. The
Mhm.
owner allowed him to cook it, sell it there. So that was the first place. So yeah, the original Colonel Sanders Kentucky Fried Chicken it was in Corbin, Kentucky, but the actual very first KFC franchised restaurant is in Salt Lake.
It's a
I
big.
think
It's
it's
a big
still
one.
there too.
Yes, it is. Most certainly is.
What in the world was that called? It didn't say Kentucky Fried Chicken on it. It said something.
Sanders Cafe.
Yeah, something like that.
Or not Sanders, what was it? I don't know. I'll pop it
I
up
can't
on the screen.
remember.
It's not Sanders
Sanders.
Cafe.
No.
It's not Harlan.
It starts with an H anyway.
But anyhow, in the story, what it is he was traveling through Salt Lake on his way to California. And he had a friend, and he's the one that owned that restaurant. And while he was sitting there, while he was visiting with them, they wanted him to cook some of his chicken. They wanted to taste his chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like a little party kind of thing at the restaurant, and everybody loved it. Well, the guy that owned that restaurant said, "Hey, he wasn't Colonel Sanders back in. I guess Harlan, whatever his name was, something Sanders. What was his name?
I don't know.
Whatever his name was." He says, "Listen, how about you give me this recipe and allow me to sell this in this restaurant under your name? And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I don't think he did right off the bat, but anyway, they kept going back and forth about it, and Colonel Sanders decided, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, so he franchised his chicken recipe, so to speak, to this feller in Salt Lake to sell at his restaurant. And as they say, the rest is history. But no, yeah, the very first commercial restaurant, KFC restaurant, it was in Salt Lake. It wasn't in Kentucky.
Right.
And I know a lot of people argue that point, but but as far as the very first place that he sold chicken, yeah, it was in Corbin, Kentucky.
I'm sure if you Google it, it would be right there.
Oh, you Google it, it's there.
Yeah.
That restaurant's still in the original location.
Yeah, I bet you can find it.
But it's like Harlan Cafe or
something like that.
Oh, I'll have a picture up of it.
Yeah,
But,
I can't remember.
You can't really argue. I mean, and a lot of people, that's where they mistake. He originally sold his chicken out of that gas station in Kentucky. But the first KFC restaurant was in Salt Lake City. And it's still there, and it's on State Street.
Yes.
Anyhow, it's getting that time, so we're going to hang this one up for the week.
Well, I just thought, it would be interesting to let these young people know how we got paid back in those days. And that we just everybody didn't have a bank account.
Right. Or credit cards.
Right.
Or cars.
Right.
Things were done a lot different back then. And, what's just like cars, the cars didn't really come into their own until the interstate highway system opened it up.
Right.
Because back in your day, like if you wanted to travel from, say, Akron, Ohio to California on a vacation, back in the 50s, there weren't interstate. You had to get on these little old 2-lane roads.
Yes.
And instead of taking, say, 3 days to get from Akron to California, it'd take you a week.
Oh, yeah. When I went from West Virginia to Akron, when my mother come down there to get me, we traveled mostly dirt road all the way.
Yeah, that's another thing.
To Akron, Ohio.
You had the little rural routes and the state highways and stuff. Yeah, the 2-lane roads like here in Kentucky is like US 60.
Right.
And whatever state you're in right now, I guarantee you've got a route something or another.
Oh yeah.
Back then, part of it might be paved, part of it might be gravel, and part of it might just be a dirt road.
It was mostly dirt road.
And
in town, they had highways.
Yeah.
But
they didn't have interstates.
No, they didn't.
Interstates didn't come to fruition until Eisenhower.
But I'll never forget
Eisenhower enacted the interstate system.
Right.
Because back then, like you said, in big cities, they didn't have interstates. They had what was called expressways.
Right.
They didn't connect. Once you got out of town, they were done.
Right.
And the expressways are now called like beltways, belt loops.
Yeah.
They're still there.
Yeah.
Now they're part of so like I-80, if you go into you go into a big city or something, the old expressway or the belt loop turns into like 280, 480, depending on which way it goes and how it works. Because some are what's called a spur, and some is a belt loop that makes it a complete loop.
But I would like to also add, if you young people would put those cell phones down and look around you and see some of the things that you are missing in life.
Oh, yeah.
By being on those cell phones.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, you don't know how much you're missing.
I just seen a thing. What state is it? They just enacted that you get fined if a cop's. It's illegal. I can't remember what state that is.
Hawaii.
Is it Hawaii? It's illegal.
Yeah.
to roam around on your cell phone and text while you're walking.
Yeah.
It's like a $30
Well, even
fine.
Lexington has signs.
Yeah, but these idiots they're walking out in traffic getting run over.
There's a heads up. You're
Not to mention
you're
people
missing
driving.
life.
Lord have mercy. I don't know how many times when you get out and drive, I get on these 2-lane roads, I almost get run off the road. And when their car comes zipping by, you can see them. They're sitting there with their elbows up on the steering wheel texting.
Mm-hmm.
I've even seen cops do that.
Yeah, well, that's bad.
Yeah, because it's illegal.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Lord have mercy. We're dragging this one out a little bit, but that's okay. It's our show. We can do what we want.
Right.
We're just it's a round microphone talk, not
Right.
round table, but we're sitting around the microphone.
Yeah. Anyway, see you next month. I mean, Monday.
Next month, Lord, don't tell them that. They're gonna be like,
Next
next
month.
month. No,
next
they're already.
Monday.
It's killing them. I have to wait every Monday.
This is our version of the fireside chats.
Fireside.
Yeah,
we got
yeah,
a fire.
there
Well,
we go.
we got a fireplace,
Yeah.
but it's back here behind me. But
Yeah. Well, someday we'll have to get a bunch of people in here together chatting.
It would take an old person to know what that
well,
meant.
now I'm gonna tell you something that's coming up. I'm gonna give a little teaser out there as we progress into this story and we get to moving, and it's gonna come sometime after we move to Salt Lake. So we're gonna talk about the music and how you learn how to play the guitar, and we're gonna have you singing a little bit. So you're gonna have
Oh,
to,
honey, I can't sing
oh yes, you
anymore.
can. Oh, you can.
I can't
You
really.
can just a little.
You'll
bit.
have to play my
Just a
my,
little bit.
my little
Oh,
thing.
don't you? I tell you what, if y'all want to hear Mama sing in a future video, comment down below.
I can't sing anymore.
I wanna
You most
tang.
certainly can.
No, I
You have
can't.
Just
beautiful
tell
voice,
everybody, I
dog.
want a
I
tang.
want a tang. So anyhow, but that's coming up. There's a lot of different things coming up. And so God bless.
We've had an interesting life. I'll have to
Lord
say.
have mercy. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I think just about every family. But I tell you, we've been to some places like Canada when we went up to Canada. That's
Right.
coming. That's another future one.
That was
Our
a trip
adventure
to
Canada.
remember.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That's going to take about 3 parts.
Yeah,
That's going to take 3 Mondays in a row to
We
tell that
can't
story.
leave out Jimmy and Mommy. Their
Jimmy
story.
and Mommy, the Japanese couple.
Yeah, that came and lived with us a
Yeah.
while.
Her and my dad adopted them. Nicest people that ever wanted to meet.
Oh yes.
And the
We'll
time
talk
that
about them.
time that Dad picked up the 2 hitchhikers, well, actually, he did that more than once. But that young
That
couple,
one, yeah, it was back in the early 70s.
nicest hippie.
They were
Yeah.
Lord, in fact, some of them bluegrass festivals, the hippies and stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
Lord, have mercy. It was fun, fun times. But we've got to cut this off. 'Cause
Okay.
We're going into
Well, you can
40
edit
minutes.
some of
Well,
it.
I'll edit some. Well, yeah, the phone call and all that will get
Yeah.
edited out.
Yeah.
But anyhow, as always, God bless, and y'all take care. Make sure to click that like button. Let Mama know what you think. Hey, you like this show?
Share, share, share.
Yeah, and share it. Make sure you share it. Spread the word. Tell everybody. Say, hey, you need to watch this show. This lady's cool. She's awesome. She's this awesome sauce lady. And yeah, how is
She's
it they
teaching
put
her
it?
kids
Smash that
some bad
like
habits.
button and share and comment. She loves the comments. Y'all got to leave comments. She loves the comments.
Really,
And,
I do. I appreciate
She's a
all of
groovy granny.
She's a groovy granny. She most certainly is. And I could lay down sob stories. And she's shut in. She hardly gets out. She hardly does anything. She never leaves that chair. She sleeps in it. She throws it back and she goes to sleep. She doesn't even, no, she's 81. She still has her driver's license. She got a car and she gets out ripping and running.
Not real far.
Not real far, but she still get out
Yeah.
ripping and run. And anyhow, enough talk. We're going to take this into an hour show.
You'll have
It's
to
going to
cut
turn into
some
an
of it
hour
off.
show. But God bless, and y'all take care, and we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
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 Somebody stop us.
Well, we start talking about something and we think of other things. It just keeps adding on.
Yeah, it
and on
does.
and on.